Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this webinar organized by the EOA project. So my name is Leo Benedetti. I'm a French NFP alternate for the European Defence Fund. And today we will talk about do's and don'ts when writing your EDF 2026 proposal. This webinar is part of the EOA 6th matchmaking day. So we have this webinar session in the morning, and in the afternoon, as a reminder, you will be able to have some B2B meetings with potential partners for EDF. Good morning. Maybe first housekeeping rules for this webinar. So at the bottom right of your screen, you have a chat box where you can interact with everyone. You also have a dedicated questions box to ask your questions to the speakers, and we will deal with that at the end of the webinar. So diving into the agenda for today, like I said, this webinar is dedicated to give you some tips to prepare your submissions for EDF 2026 calls for proposals. We will start with changes in EDF 2026 work program with Victor Hartong taking the floor. He is a Dutch NFP alternate. Then we will give the floor to Erno Vandeweert from DG DEFIS to explain you a bit about the most common mistakes that DEFIS has been dealing with during proposal writing and evaluation. Thirdly, we will give the floor to Iago Docamiño Posada from City Innovation Lab, providing you with a checklist of what you need to make sure before you submit your proposals. And I will be concluding the webinar with some EDF-related opportunities that will be upcoming in the next few weeks or months. Let's start with the presentation with first Victor Hartong. Over to you.
Yes, many thanks. And maybe before we start, I think we can safely say that the webinar will be made available via our YouTube channel, Leo. And also, I think the slides will be shared and made available after you can download them yourself in the app at the end of this webinar. So I already see some questions coming along in our chat box with many active participants. So good morning to you all. I'd like to start with the changes in regards to EDF for the year 2026. Especially when we look back at 2025. So a bit of a comparison. I'd also like to remind you, please always check this information yourself, because this is, of course, these are the current state of affairs at this moment. But things can possibly, I think everyone tries to avoid it, but things can possibly change. So always check the most recent call documents in the funding and tender portal to the relevant call topic. What I'd like to discuss is mostly the changes that were applied by the adaptation of the mini omnibus. And in that regard, it applies to, for example, the possibility for Ukraine entities to participate as beneficiaries once the signature has been signed. FSTP calls. And well, here's actually the list of what I'd like to discuss. Also, a new type of call and cascaded evaluation. And last but not least, also the step relevance to most of the calls. Only two, I think, a step not involved. Also, I'd like to remind you that the work program was published on the 17th of December in the first version, just before Christmas. And with the adaptation of the changes of this new mini omnibus, on the 4th of February, new work program has been published, which is available at the Commission website. So, the first change that came forward from the mini omnibus, and this is a repetition of what has been said during the EDF Info Days. So, some of this you can also find in the webinars that you can also find available at the Commission website. So here we have a new type of call, the lump sum disruptive calls. also here, I advise you strongly to read the call document for all the details. So this is a summary of the most important details from this call. It targets fast innovation, which means that the project can only take between 12 and 24 months. It has to apply TRL 4 or above. So TRL stands, of course, for the technology readiness levels. If you're unknown with these levels, please consider a smart search to Wikipedia page, which I found excellent. And also remember that for the disruptive calls, small consortia are allowed. So you can technically, the minimum required amount of independent entities from 2 member states is 2 entities. The proposals must, of course, include disruptive impact in the defense context, a radical vision, but it has to be, of course, clear and compellingly written, and a clear output orientation, of course, because you want to have a focus on how to adopt this as quickly as possible. What also is new is a cascaded evaluation. This will apply to the SMERO, so SMERO stands for Small to Medium-Sized Enterprise and Research Organization, and the lump sum disruptive calls. So also here with the adaptation of the mini omnibus, per call, a specific award criteria can be used. And for this, I also urge you to have a look at the calls you are interested in to see which award criteria apply to that call. I've here set an example for the EDF 2026 lump sum disruptive call that 3 award criteria are applied: A, B, and F. And that stands for, please correct me if I'm wrong, excellence, innovation, and implementation. The first assessment will, of course, be of the formal requirements. So if the proposal is admissible and eligible, and from there on, the proposal will be evaluated further. So award criteria will be done in a cascading effect. And if you don't meet the threshold at the first, the evaluation is stopped. So the first evaluation award criteria is awarded for excellence and potential of disruption. So if you don't meet the threshold, the proposal will not be evaluated for the next one on innovation and technological development in this case. The advantages, of course, is there's a shorter evaluation time. It can provide possibly a faster grant agreement process, grant agreement preparation phase process. And I've also noticed in this specific call that the part B is limited to maximum 50 pages, where the default was 100 pages. Again, I urge you to read the call document very carefully for the exact rules that apply to the call. Furthermore, we see that FSTP is generalized for all calls. So FSTP stands for Financial Support to Third Parties. This means that from one larger project proposal, smaller tickets can be made available, again, via smaller proposals that can be handed into the consortium that, of course, is executing this proposal. So now this is optional in all calls. Before, it was really applied to certain calls. So now it is decided at proposal level. There are some restrictions, of course. So for the maximum budget that you can spend on FSTP is maximum 5% of the EU contribution. Of course, this differs per call. So also here, please look at the call and how much contribution can be made. And there's a maximum of 60K per third party that applies to your calls. So the implementation, of course, you have to have a minimum of 2 sub-calls and a minimum of 3 recipients per sub-call, and the program can only take a maximum of 6 months. So why is this interesting to involve? So there are benefits for the third parties because it gives them access to funding where it can be challenging with these larger calls with higher budgets. There's a lighter administration burden, less financial risks, and faster innovation cycles because it is a 6 months acceleration program in comparison to the length an EDF proposal can take. And it allows certain parties to have an entry to the defense network. And for the consortium, they, of course, can scout for new SMEs and adopt niche technology there. It will allow them to enhance their TRL acceleration, and it, of course, allows them to involve the ecosystem with the SMEs. Also for the consortium, I think it will also reduce the amount of partners and beneficiaries if they can allow these financial support to third parties to include the development in the call. Then we have the step calls and the step seal. So almost all EDF calls are now step. So I've seen only not two are not step involved. So these calls, they need to contribute to the step objectives. And these include digital technologies, clean and resourceful efficient technologies, or resource efficient technologies, biotechnologies, and new since December 2025 defense technologies. Also here, I urge you to read the regulation itself, because this will provide a lot more information than I'm showing on my screen at the moment. Also here, I gave a brief overview of what STEP aims to achieve, which is, of course, ensure the sovereignty and security of the European Union, to reduce the strategic dependencies in strategic sectors, and foster cross-border participation, including of SMEs. This list is quite longer, so you can find this in Article 2.1 of the STEP regulation. So proposals that meet the minimum threshold, they can get the STEP seal. So what does this mean? That it means that there's a recognition that the proposal meets the requirements of the call, which means that the proposal is awarded in the, well, excellent enough to get EU funding, of course. So it will signal quality and credibility, and it can possibly lead to access to public or private funding. Here we see of the programs that are involved in the STEP calls. So European Defence Fund is one of the 5 programs. And if so, as I mentioned, if the project complies with the minimum quality requirements, so you meet the thresholds, then you can get the STEP seals. Obviously, it also needs to contribute to the STEP objectives, which were outlined earlier. So with the mini omnibus, Ukraine is in the process of becoming an associated country, of course, pending the signature. So then Ukrainian entities will be eligible to participate as beneficiaries and receive EU funding. The benefits of involving these Ukrainian entities is, of course, that you get very fast feedback from the theater. They have a very fast pace of innovation cycle. They focus on development and prototyping and testing. They have a wide range of expertise and the capability to innovate and adapt dual-use technologies. And with that dual-use technologies, use of commercial off-the-shelf equipment. I recommend that you can find your partner using the ASD Connect website, provided with the link in the slide. And I think that gives a brief summary of the mini omnibus changes that apply to the EDF 2026. Over to you, Leo.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Victor. So a lot of information, and please make sure to refer to the official documentation and regulations to know more about these aspects. Now leaving the floor to Erno Vandeweert from DG DEFIS.
Thank you, Leo, and good morning, everybody. So indeed, Erno Vandeweert speaking from Brussels, giving you an overview of what we see most commonly as mistakes in writing your proposals. Just to give you the general workflow that we do during the evaluation of proposals. So it's basically the assessment of 6 conditions and criteria, which are done by the evaluation committee installed inside the Commission with the help of independent experts. And I warmly recommend you that if you want to join the group of experts which are evaluating proposals, that you are looking at the funding and tender portal to see what conditions there are to submit your application. But as said, so proposals are judged against 6 criteria. So we have admissibility criteria, exclusion, selection, eligibility, and award criteria. And then there's also an ethics screening of proposals which will be funded. In this presentation, I will focus on the conditions which, or on mistakes which we commonly find against the admissibility, eligibility, and the award criteria. Be aware, we started with 142 proposals which were received in 2021. So last year we have more than tripled the submission numbers, while we have a stable budget of about 1 billion euro to be spent in EDF projects. So I cannot reveal you, and this will be only next week after the discussion in the program committee, but you will not be surprised if the number of projects funded will be of the same order of magnitude as the previous years. So we see an increased competition, which leads then, especially in the non-thematic calls, where we are receiving so many proposals now, to lower success rates. And that's why it's really important that all the aspects in your proposal should be of top quality. As Victor said, this is the Bible, the call text, with all the call conditions and all the templates which are available on the submission system at the Funding and Tender portal. It has all the information. So, okay, complying with all these things will maybe not bring you to heaven or to the funding, but not complying with them will certainly not help your proposals to be selected for funding. So this has all the information on what the activities are needed, what the functional requirements there, what documents are needed to annex to the template, and then also information on how to submit a proposal. All the templates are available on the submission system, and also for specific topics there are questions and answers which are directly accessible from the call pages. We see a lot of consortia which are trying to submit for the first time at the very last minute. This is a big risk, in said that the participant portal may be really busy, because not only our calls are there, but there are sometimes many calls which are having the same deadline for submission. Sometimes you see in the end that by compiling everything, your file becomes larger than the 100 megabyte which we can accept. That there are problems with this detailed budget table to validate it or to export it. We request that the proposals are submitted in an encrypted zip file. Sometimes these encryption at the last minute does not work as expected. There are missing declarations, there are missing signatures. So all these things in the last minute, try to avoid this by anticipating and submitting already first version or subsequent versions of your proposal. You can always reopen your proposal to further review it, but please try to avoid that you wait until the last minute to submit the final version. Inadmissibility, well, your proposal will be deemed inadmissible if there are mandatory annexes which are not present. If you're not using the templates which are provided on the Funding and Tender portal, if these annexes are not fully filled in, or depending on the annex, are not included for all the participants, if they are not properly signed, meaning that they have to be signed by the appropriate person in your organization who has the authority to sign for these documents. When it comes to ineligibility, we still have every year proposals which are submitted by single applicants or by a group of entities which are dependent on each other, so that it's mother and daughter companies, or which are located in non-eligible countries, so outside the EU or Norway. For the time being, So until the association agreement with Ukraine is signed, at this moment, Ukraine is not yet an associated country. Infrastructure, yes, so that's more or less so the entities, but also the infrastructure, the facilities need to be carried out in the eligible countries. And in some proposals, we find out that mandatory activities which are indicated in the call topic are not included or not covered by the proposal. This is a very important slide, maybe the most important slide for the SME companies in the audience. Make sure that you perform, especially for the development actions, SMEs and SME and research organization calls. Make sure that you perform your self-assessment in the participant portal. It's very easy, takes your accountant maybe 5 minutes to do so, but it's a self-assessment based on the size and the revenues of your company, which then is automatically shown in your submission forms. So you will see here an SME self-assessment which is unknown. No, the SME self-assessment should be performed and not be older than 2 years. For the schools also, consortia sometimes include larger companies. That's not possible as beneficiaries. They can be subcontracting, but the subcontracting per applicant should not be more than 30% of the eligible cost. Specifically for the SME and research organization call, coordinators should be, or they are mandatory to be an SMEs. And also here, the research organizations have to perform a self-declaration to ensure that their main activity is research. And then this will be also reflected in the legal statuses of the organization and visible in your Part A or administrative part of your application. Also, the budget allocated to research organizations should not exceed 40% of the total requested grant. So that's really something which is easy to resolve, but please also check as a coordinator that the applicants which need to be SME validated or research organization validated, that this test is performed. Other specific conditions for ineligibility is that your co-financing part in development actions is not covering the total needs of the entire action, that there are no harmonized defense capability requirements, which have to be agreed by at least 2 member states of Norway. If your proposal covers also studies, there should be kind of a deliverable to say that these requirements will be provided, but the confirmation of the support remains due at the level of submission. Also, for development actions, it's needed that there is a declaration of intent by at least 2 member states of or Norway to procure the final product or to use the technology if the proposal addresses the higher ranking activities like prototyping, testing, qualification, and certification. Again, if your proposal starts with design activities, the common technical specifications can be provided during the project as kind of a deliverable, but the declaration of the intent is indeed due at the moment of submission. Very specifically on spin-in calls, and again, this is very, well, rather new. I think it's the second year we organize these spin-in calls. You have to include in your proposal very clearly the projects which are funded under another EU program on which the proposal builds upon, and for which you can also have access to the IP rights related to these results you plan to bring into the proposal. What else can go wrong? Like, well, formats. There are formats which are not applicable, like all versions of templates. And the PDF documents sometimes are not readable, or parts are missing. Part B, sometimes the font size gets into negative values, or the margins are extremely small. There is sometimes information which is inconsistent across different parts of the proposal, which gives an indication that, okay, it's a kind of a compilation of previously submitted parts. If it's a resubmission, sometimes the contents are not updated. We have now also AI, which is used, but the whole query and copy-paste from another proposal is still there. Or you see that it's not a final version where also track changes and comments are still included in the document. Also make sure that the contact and the email address of the main coordinator is up to date, and that the email is working. Maybe sometimes very fancy acronyms are submitted, but please make sure that these are not registered trademarks. So that's we have this every now and then, that companies complain, like, look, this acronym is registered by our company, so it should not be used as the name of a proposal, and certainly not as the name of a funded project. Now, on award criteria, so we covered admissibility, eligibility. Now, when you pass these two hurdles, your proposal will be presented to the independent experts and be evaluated against the award criteria. If you receive your evaluation summary report and it says, like, okay, there is insufficient information, or the proposal is not detailed enough, then you can be quite sure that there is actually almost no information included that allows for a proper assessment of that criteria. Please proofread your proposals for clarity. It's now much easier with using artificial intelligence, but make sure that your proposals are clear. Make sure that you answer to all the template questions, that there are no inconsistencies between part A and part B of your proposal, so that the technical part and the administrative part. If your proposal is longer than 100 pages or 50 in the case of the disruptive non-thematic and it is SMERO, then we will not evaluate the pages which are over this page limit. Maybe a special point of attention is the word weakness. If you, in your evaluation summary report, see that an assessment is indicated to be a weakness of the proposal, that means that there are single or multiple shortcomings there which are so severe that they cannot be remedied during the preparation of the grant agreement. So that means that there's inherently systemic failure of the proposal, which means that we will not assign a score which is above 2.5 out of 5 to this criterion. Okay, let's see then to the individual award criteria. So the first one is on excellence. Make sure that your concept and that your solution is fit for application in the defense domain. So the European Defence Fund is really only funding proposals which are really integrated in the defense domain. Functional requirements in non-thematic calls have to be provided by the applicants. Sometimes this is not very well formulated, or again not relevant in the context of defense. When we're talking about disruption in defense domain, we really mean that there should be a kind of a drastic change in how defense affairs are regulated between adversaries. So we're not talking about disruptive innovation or other types of terms which include or may suggest disruption. Here, the EDF regulation is really defining what is meant by disruptive technologies in the defense domain. And then as last thing, the advantage of the proposed solution sometimes is already present in existing defense products. So it's important for you to clearly distinguish what makes your solution to be excellent in that context. When we're talking about innovation, then okay, we have a number of projects which are successor of previous projects. That makes it sometimes difficult for including again innovative concepts, but basically this criterion is there for all the proposals in competitive calls. So you have to see how you can address this this point in your proposal. Sometimes there are explanations and integration of what is already done in the field, but it's limited to the consortium. So you have to look wider to what is happening at the state of play when it comes to existing knowledge. IP ownership of results, that should be clearly explained, and also how it will be used in the proposed project. And then when it comes to spin-off in the European Defence Fund, please make sure that you're looking into other applications in the defense domain. Sometimes your solutions are possible to be used in like the security or the emergency services, but we are looking specifically for other fields within the defense sector to use your solutions, proposed solutions. Competitiveness will not be included in the 2026 criteria for the disruptive non-thematic calls. But just briefly, the competitive advantage of your product or your technology compared to what is already existing or planned should be convincing. You should justify very well the balance between performance and cost efficiency. Very often market analysis are quite superficial. They are not containing quantitative data, or they are not oriented on the defense market. In criterion 3 on competitiveness, we also want you to have at least good ideas about the strategy on your intellectual property that will be generated by the project. So just stating that, okay, we will handle this in the consortium agreement, that's not sufficient. And so you have to have, at the level of the proposal submission, a good idea about the strategy you want to follow. On the contribution to autonomy and security and defense interest, also here this is not criteria to be covered in the disruptive non-thematic calls. But still, the technology independence from third countries needs to be very well integrated and demonstrated. How you will strengthen the security of supply at the European level, including where relevant, including new supply chains. You should also cover that the contribution to defense capability priorities is relevant for your proposal, and there you are having the links to the capability development plan, which is releasable to industry from the websites of the European Defence Agency. This should be convincingly substantiated in your proposal, And please make sure that you are referring to the last version of the capability development plan. Cross-border cooperation, also not for the disruptive non-thematic calls. Here there are two aspects. That's the cross-border cooperation, which is new in your consortium. Sometimes for follow-up projects and for a very big consortium, this is not that easy to demonstrate. But then also you need to have to elaborate on how you see the future steps in cooperating during and after the project has ended. The extent and the added value of the SMEs and mid-caps should be clearly demonstrated, in particular when it comes to cross-border. So you have to combine both the qualitative nature of this participation and cooperation, but also with quantitative information, which will be already then flagged in the detailed budget tables. This is important, the last point on for the disruptive non-thematic, that SMEs and mid-caps should be clearly indicated as such in the detailed budget table annex. So that's not automatically picked up from the part A, the administrative part. So you have to make sure that the detailed budget table and the administrative part are compliant. Lifecycle efficiency, this is only for development actions. So there's very often, excuse me, no reuse or recycling strategy available in the proposal. Or we are not touching on the maintenance and durability aspects of the proposed solutions. And then very often the solutions are there in very mild conditions, not like in the high seas, not in salty conditions or very sandy conditions in the desert. So the military conditions should also be explained in the life cycle efficiency of your proposed solution. The integration of the European defense industry is a criterion only for development actions. Their proposals sometimes are not going beyond the minimum number of member states that are intended to use, own, or maintain the solutions. Or there's no future cooperation foreseen that's credible with new member states joining the procurement, ownership, operation, and in-service support aspects of the solutions. The last criterion, so criterion 6 for the research actions or criterion 8 for development action, is about implementation. So here you have to prove that your proposal will also be a good project, so that you know as a consortium how to run it efficiently and properly. So you have to demonstrate a good work plan. We see very often that there are no interrelations between work packages, that timings are not very clear. Visual representation by a Gantt chart or per chart or other tools makes it very clear sometimes what your intentions are in implementing the proposal. There's always sometimes confusion between milestones and deliverables. Milestones are sometimes difficult to check. There are missing connections between tasks and deliverables. Sometimes management structures are overly complicated for the size of the project. Risk identifications and diversion strategies are not provided or unclear, or are only linked to technical aspects of the proposal. Allocation of resources should match the allocation of tasks to participants. Sometimes there's a not a very clear link between them. And here in particular, there is a lot of copy-pasting from proposals which are submitted previously or circulating. So we sometimes find that they are referring to other proposals. Project durations are not matching, so it's really very important for this criterion that you make sure that everything is coherent and to the point. Maybe a last word on the use of generative artificial intelligence. So you can use this, but you have to be transparent on it. And of course, you remain responsible for the content of the proposal. So included also the parts which are produced by AI tools. So as a coordinator, please make sure that also your partners in the consortium are transparent about this, because sometimes the intellectual property rights can be affected without knowing what has been happened in the parts which are provided by other partners in your consortium. So we have instructed our experts that they should not consider the use of AI tools as a reason to penalize a proposal. But of course, the quality of the proposal with or without AI will be judged by the expert evaluators. Okay, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Back to you, Leo.
Thank you very much, Erno, for these practical insights when it comes to writing your proposals. And we didn't remind you the deadline, which is 29th of September. So mark your calendars and listen carefully to those advice. Moving on to the third section of this webinar and giving the floor to Iago for a practical checklist on what you need to make sure before you submit your proposal.
Thank you, Leo, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Iago Docamiño Posada from the Civil Engineering Group. Today I will walk you through a practical checklist that we use in our company to ensure a solid and compliant submission to European Defence Fund calls. The objective of the presentation is very simple, is to help you avoid last-minute surprises and to maximize your chances of success at the submission stage. So first of all, just a few words about myself. I'm a project manager at the CETI Innovation Lab. I have an MBA and also background in mechanical engineering with more than 10 years of experience managing engineering projects, both in the railway and the defense sectors, also all the related sectors. And since 2023, I have been coordinating R&D and innovation projects at CETI, including several European proposals with a strong focus in Horizon Europe and EDF requirements. What I will share today is based on very practical and hands-on experience. Before going into the checklist, just a very quick overview of CETI. CETI is an international engineering company with a strong focus on technology, innovation, and also defense-related activities. Our mission is to provide engineering solutions that add real value to our customers, and innovation is a key pillar of our strategy. This background is very important because in EDF proposals require not only technical excellence, but also a strong industrial and strategic relevance. So now going on the checklist, the checklist is divided in different sections. I will give you a brief overview of each of them. I won't go on every checkbox, but I hope this is useful for you, and for sure you are very welcome to use the checklist when doing your proposal, when working on your proposals. So the first and probably the most critical point is the alignment with the call and the topic. Before writing a single page in the proposal, you must be absolutely sure that your proposal fully addresses the specific EDF topic scope. This includes verifying the action type, expecting the TRL, funding limits, very importantly, the contribution to the European Union defense capabilities and strategic autonomy. Exploitation and dissemination plans are not optional add-ons anymore, so they must be credible and aligned also with the EDF restrictions. And finally, whenever possible, the end-user involvement, such as the Ministry of Defense or the Armed Forces, adds significant weight to the proposal. The second pillar is the consortium. EDF is very strict on eligibility. From Erno has been commenting on some of these points, but it's important to be aligned with the minimum number of entities required, the different member states, ownership, the control rules. Also beyond eligibility, evaluators look for the balance of the consortium, so industry, SMEs, SMEs, and research organizations. Each must have a clear role in the consortium and in the project. The roles and the responsibility must be crystal clear, supported by a solid governance and project management structures. For sure, budget, resources, and subcontracting must be coherent with the work plan, and the financial viability should never be an afterthought. The administrative part, this section is often underestimated, but it can be a proposal killer, so it's important to take this into account. All participants must be properly registered in the funding and tender portal of the European Union with validated big numbers and also with the legal documents. Also the security aspects, the export control, intellectual property strategy must be clearly addressed and fully compliant with the EDF rules. And also budget must strictly follow the eligibility rules and funding rates with no ineligible cost included in the proposal. Also, major cost items must be clearly justified and have a consistency between the partners, the work packages, and the total budgeting. That's essential for the proposal. Now we move to the technical excellence, which is where the most effort is usually invested in the proposals. Objectives must be very clear, ambitious, and fully aligned with the call, as I said. The state of the art and the innovation beyond it must be demonstrated in a very concrete way. The methodology should be realistic, structured in coherent work packages, with clear deliverables, milestones, and with all the risk identified and including mitigation measures to attack this risk. And finally, the proposal must be evaluator friendly, clear writing, no contradictions, no jargon overload, and strict respect of the page limits. Oh, sorry. Also, even a perfect proposal can fail if submission is not handled properly. So all mandatory templates must be used, annexes completed if required, and also the files correctly uploaded in the portal. Final validation check is for sure mandatory, and I strongly recommend not doing this on the very last day of the proposal submission. For EDF, remember that the requirement for securing the files, including password protective zip files when applicable, and always submit the proposal well before the deadline, and make sure that you receive the official confirmation from the portal, so you ensure that everything has been uploaded correctly. And also based on evaluator feedback and recent call, these are some common mistakes. Misalignment with the call topics is still the number one. Also, weak exploitation or impact sections are heavily penalized. And for sure, incomplete administrative information from partners, especially in the Part A, is another critical issue. Unrealistic work plans, budget inconsistencies, ignoring security or IPR constraints, and the last minute submission are risks that are 100% avoidable with a good checklist like this one. So I encourage all of you to use this checklist, also to feel free to modify for your will. And in order to conclude, a strong EDF submission is not only about good ideas, but also about discipline, consistency, and attention to the details. So the checklist is designed to help you systematically verify that nothing critical is missing before submission. So thank you so much for your attention, and I will be happy to take any question at the end if needed. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Iago. I think Erno maybe has a comment on this.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Iago, for a very complete and very thorough presentation and checklist. So that really helps probably many applicants to comply. Just one comment on the letters of support. So the letters of support, as you clearly indicated, are not necessary or not mandatory for research actions. And even stronger, we will not look into these letters of support when evaluating research action proposals. What we have seen in the field is that sometimes coordinators ask for applicants before they can join the consortia that they supply a letter of support. But this is totally not a requirement from the European Commission. So let me make this clear that, okay, there is maybe a practice to kind of coordinators wanting to have a kind of a quality assurance by such letters of support. But for research actions, this is not part of the evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Moving on to the next and last section, which I will be presenting about EDF-related upcoming opportunities and support that are provided to applicants. Starting with some information on where to find help and where to find all information you need to prepare your submissions. You have the official EDF webpage on the European Commission website that is available. You can find here introduction to the EDF, the annually published work programs, including this year's work program, obviously. You can find also tutorials on financial aspects and other administrative aspects that you will have to fill in when submitting the proposal online. You have a link to the webpage on the slides, and as a reminder, you will be able to download the presentation at the end of the session. Then you have the EU funding and tenders portal, which is another resource to be used. You have a dedicated section on guidance and documents button, and there you can find all the templates and forms and you can download them and work on them offline if needed when preparing the submission. You also have a Q&A dedicated section on the EU funding and tenders portal where you can find all questions that have been asked to the Commission and the respective answers. DEFIS is also supporting the applicants with the building of the network of national focal points. So each of EU member states has its own NFP, as we noun them, NFPs are nominated by each member state and Norway to organize and promote EDF within their local territories. Many countries organize annual national info days for the European Defence Fund. Most of them have been organized already, but you can also have a direct chat with your local NFP to ask them any question you might have on the EDF. We NFPs are here also to play the intermediary role between the applicants and DEFIS, and we can also relate any questions to the Commission. You have a link also to the full list of NFPs, so I highly encourage you to go and browse the list and find your local NFP. EOA project is managed by 17 member states, NFPs. The goal of EOA is to enhance skills and network among the NFP network, and also to share best practices on how to best support EDF applicants. We provide, such as with this webinar, promotion activities to the EDF community, and we also create tools that can be relevant to you. We have a dedicated website where you can find all EDF information. You can find also a dedicated NFP tool. And we also have social media presence with a dedicated LinkedIn page, which I also obviously encourage you to follow. We also created an EDF partner search platform together with the European Defence Agency. So you can browse here all the EDF 2026 topics and see whether you can find a partner and raise your interest to be contacted by potential partners within this website. So again, the link to the platform is available. You can register and then see whether you can find partners through this platform. Last but not least, EOA is also organizing on-site events. And the last on-site event will be organized during the Hannover Messe on the 21st of April. So we will have a 2.5-hour event organized by the German NFPs together with the Enterprise Europe Network colleagues to allow you to pitch your project idea, potentially, if you have one, and to have B2B meetings with potential partners on site. The link is available here for you to register if you have any interest. And we also wanted to mention an EDF-related opportunity, and especially targeting startups and scale-ups that are rather from the civil or dual-use sector. And this opportunity is the EUDIS Business Accelerator. So the EUDIS Business Accelerator is an 8-month acceleration program targeting cohorts of 20 companies that have been selected by the EUDIS team. We have there the opportunity to access to tailored training, coaching at designated accelerator sites during boot camps. You have the ability to network and engage with defense end users and investors and other corporates through matchmaking events. You can also have access to testing facilities if you get selected. And last but not least, you have also access to a little grant of 120,000 euros to also accelerate your defense innovation strategy. The second call for applicants to the EUDIS Business Accelerator for 2026 will be launched on the 13th of April, so in 3 days, and will close on the 30th of May. So you have a list of the technological teams that are targeted for 2026 on the slides. And we also highly encourage you to apply. Who is eligible? So selected startups and scale-ups from the EU member states and Norway either defense companies or dual-use companies looking for the defense, looking to get introduced to the defense markets. The applicants, just as for EDF, must not be under control of a non-associated third country or entity. And we also have the possibility for Ukrainian entities to participate to matchmaking activities. Again, you have the link to apply for the EUDIS Business Accelerator on the slide. And if you have any questions also, please feel free to ask. And with this, we enter the Q&A session. So let me just have a look on the questions box. I take advantage to that to thank also our colleagues in backstage, Emmanuel, Paloma, Stein, who have been able to answer the questions in writing during the session. I believe all the questions have been answered, so I just encourage you to have a look on these. If you have any questions, maybe we'll allow you to ask them again and close the webinar in a couple of minutes if we don't receive anything. Okay, we received one. Is EUDIS available for SMEs? Yes, it is. Yes. Only European SMEs, so SMEs from EU member states or from Norway.
Maybe also to answer one question, it seems there was some confusion about the minimum requirement for participation in a consortium. So in a regular call within EDF, you have to represent at least 3 independent entities from 3 different member states or associated countries, except for the disruptive calls where the minimum amount is 2. And also do not confuse this with the support you have to have for the development actions. So there you have to have the support of at least 2 member states or associated countries. You can find these in Article 21 of the EDF regulation in regard to the requirements for the development actions. But please note, this is the minimum amount. Usually, when you have the bare minimum, I'm not sure if this will be very good for your scores in the award criteria.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for the clarification. What's the relationship between EUDIS and EOA? EUDIS and EOA are both funded by the European Defence Fund, but we don't have the same objectives, let's say. EOA is a coordination and support action to animate the network of NFPs, so national focal points. Whether EUDIS is a European Defence Innovation Scheme, and it has several pillars, including the Business Accelerator, which is meant to accelerate defense innovation, especially among the community of smaller players. But EUDIS also has EUDIS hackathons, which are taking place twice a year, if I'm not mistaken, across Europe. And they also have EUDIS matchmaking, which is constantly open.
Yes, in addition, the EUDIS also provides business coaches for SMEs participating in EDF proposals. And I think there are multiple hackathons across Europe during the year.
Yeah. We have a question, and maybe this will be directed to Erno. How important is European autonomy as a German company owned by a third party that decided to join another consortium, suggesting decisions aren't made in Europe?
Yes. So basically, the rule is that that entity should be established in Europe or in Norway as a certain country, and that means that it's not like a mailbox that should be there. They should be having their decision-making structures, their production facilities, etc. So it should be a fully established company in the EU. Now, it is possible that the company is controlled by entities or even by governments outside the EU and Norway. At that moment, the company should declare this to us and also get an ocean. Well, everybody will have an ownership control assessment done by the validation services. If there is control, then you have to have as an entity guarantees from the member states in which you are located related to security aspects, the control of information flow. So, I mean, it's not impossible to be controlled by foreign entities or governments, but you have to have guarantees that this is okay for the member state in which your company is located.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few other questions. Maybe let's get into this one. Apart from the requirements, what is the rule of thumb on the number of participants? Is there any hidden rule on the number of partners per consortium, depending on the budget, or would you have any suggestion on that?
Do you want me to take it?
If you have any idea on how to answer that?
Yeah, so I mean, there is no predefined number of participants or budget there are caps which are indicated in the context. It should make sense. So it should make sense that the partners which are in your consortium have an active role and a meaningful role to perform the proposed work. Overall, EDF consortia, especially when it comes to the larger development actions, are much bigger than in the civil research. So sometimes we have really big consortia with over 50 partners. It also should be manageable from a coordinator point of view. So such big consortia are really not easy to management and certainly not by smaller players. So there, I think on average it's about 9 partners in consortium from, if I'm not wrong, seven member states. But this is not a kind of a rule of thumb. This is just an average of what we see in practice happening.
Also,
usually it's
sorry, Victor, go ahead.
Usually it's a bit decided by the amount of budget that's also available. So we have, of course, the minimum requirement of 3, except for the disruptive, which is 2, which I mentioned earlier, independent entities within the consortium, and also the maximum budget determined by the call. But other than that, I think there are no actual limitations, except for, of course, the practical limitations that you will endure when you have a lot of beneficiaries in the consortium. As far as I can tell, it's usually between 5 and 10 for non-thematic calls, which of course have lower budgets. So there you can sort of, and as the budget increases, the amount of beneficiaries in the consortium also increase. So indeed, the larger calls, they have more beneficiaries in the consortium, and the smaller calls, they have less, with give or take 500,000 per consortium member, give or take. Well, that's a rule of thumb. I wouldn't take it too with a big grain of salt, maybe, but that's sort of the what we see. And I think an average is 9, but that really depends on the size of the budget of the call.
Also, I would like to remark that it's important to have a balance between the partners, both in the workload and also in the budget, according to that workload. So it's not there is no general rule, but I think it's important to remark this balance.
Yeah, thank you both. And we also have Paloma confirming that the average number of entities involved in proposals is 9, and the average number of countries represented, so member states and Norway, is 5.5 per consortium. Gives you a bit an idea on this rule of thumb. Okay, maybe one last question so we don't extend too much the webinar. A few more questions. We will answer them in writing afterwards. Or the importance given to the European autonomy has to be described in the proposal, so it is part of the evaluation criteria.
Exactly. So there you can describe it, what your strategy will be, of course, to make your proposal stronger. Because obviously EDTIB autonomy is one of the award criteria where this will be awarded. So I guess it makes sense what you're describing if you want to make your proposal stronger, because EDF is about strategic autonomy, also in the supply chain, in regard to also if it's a step call.
And maybe to add on this, it's not so much about changing your supply chains, but to also diversify and identify where the bottlenecks are and how you will circumvent this, preferentially by European suppliers, of course.
Okay, and with that we will conclude. Please stay connected. The whole team will answer the remaining questions in writing. Now it's time for you to prepare for your meetings this afternoon. So as a reminder, there is this dedicated platform where you can register until 12:30 and then request meetings with potential partners until 12:45. So I highly encourage you to connect to the platform. The link will be given in the chat. Thank you again to all the speakers, Victor, Erno, Iago, and to the whole team for hosting the webinar. Good luck with all your proposals, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good luck all. Bye-bye.
Yes, successful meeting. Bye-bye.